John Wallace here with Wild Game Cook, and we're with Remington today, and we're going to be going through all of the gear needed to process your own wild game at home, from beginner to advanced. First, we're going to start with the grinder. Those who don't process their game at home often don't do it because they don't have the time. So they send it off to a processor. Well, once you make the decision to process your game at the house, it takes a lot of time, and the best way to get your wild game processed as quickly as possible is a grinder. If you can't afford a grinder and you happen to have some sort of mixer at the house and you buy an attachment, that will get you by. Investing in a quality grinder that matches your budget is the most important and the most valuable piece of equipment you can have. The three basic cuts of breaking down your big game are ground venison, steaks, and roasts. So this handles the grinding component. You basically take your offcuts or your cuts that aren't prime for steaks or your loins or whatever, and you take those, chunk them up into small pieces, and you run them through the chute, and it comes out here. I can't stress enough the importance of having a grinder at home. It's all these common, very popular dishes with wild game are ground meat. So once it comes out of this, you can grind it fresh and put it straight into your dinner, or you can put it into cylindrical bags and you can freeze it and you can pull it out throughout the year. What you're gonna need to do for that is use the packing system, which we're gonna talk about next. One thing that dramatically cuts down the time of your processing is having the ability to have your meat, your ground venison, your ground whatever, going straight through your grinder into a stuffing tube, straight into your bag. So this attaches to your grinder, your bag goes on there, and as your meat is coming out, fills up the bag, you simply twist and put it through your tape dispenser, and you're left with your 1 pound, they make 2 pound bags of your ground venison. Something that makes it very convenient, because if I was grinding this, I'd have to hit the stop button, is using this foot pedal. It attaches to your grinder, it plugs in, and as you've got it held down, the grinder grinds, and when you let up, the grinder stops. So as your 1 pound bag finishes, you let off the gas, twist it, and tape it, and they stack nicely in the freezer. So it's a very worthwhile investment. It's very affordable to buy these pieces and saves you a lot of time. Next up, we're gonna go with the vac sealer. A lot of time and energy is spent pursuing the game we harvest, and you need to preserve it. There's really two options for preservation to make your meat last long. That's either a vac sealer or the butcher paper route. The reason I prefer a vac sealer is because you can see your meat. If I get a bad seal or it begins to get freezer burnt, I know that, and I'm able to see it. So they make smaller versions, they make larger versions. Find the vac sealer that best fits your budget. It works great for leftovers. It works great for small cuts, large cuts. Next up, we're gonna move over to the meat lugs. All right, these meat lugs serve many purposes. They hold your meat whether you're done grinding, whether it's your quarters as you're putting your hindquarters, your shoulders, your prime cuts into different lugs. You can also get these nice drain trays which fit perfectly in here and allow your meat to drain, which helps with dry aging. They also double as storage containers for all of your processing equipment in the off season. Next up, we're gonna show you a cutting board and knife set. All right, as they say, this is where the magic happens. When I'm processing my wild game, whether it be deer, ducks, or geese, I'm often standing behind a cutting board, and I made the investment for a large one because not only is it big enough to hold a hindquarter of a whitetail, but I can also have one of my sons or a friend on the other side working on theirs. So invest in a large cutting board. You don't want to be using your knives on a hard surface. I found that wood cutting boards oftentimes don't lend themselves as easy to clean. This cleans up very nice. You want to invest in a nice knife set, specifically a boning knife and a sharpener. This gets used, a lot when you're breaking down your meat. I like to use gloves when I'm working just to keep my hands from getting really dirty. That wraps it up for the basics of the home cooking processing equipment. We're going to move on to part 2. Be sure to look for the link in the description below.